Very good morning to you all. I would like to acknowledge the Deputy Chief Executive of New Zealand Qualification Authority, Ms. Eve McMahon, Commission Chair, Mr. Winston Thompson, and board members who are seated here, DFET and MFET representatives, joint sponsors of this forum, senior management team, and the executives from the higher education institutes, keynote speakers from Monash University, Director of Fiji Higher Education Commission, private sector representatives, which I can see in this room. I can recognize quite a number of them, senior government officials, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. I'm indeed honored to be here this morning at this forum, despite the big hype happening right now in Suva, with the forum meeting going ahead. Let me first congratulate the Fiji Higher Education Commission for organizing this inaugural forum. And I hope that this is not just once a year forum, but I hope the industry partners and the higher education institutes can meet often to understand each other's needs. It is pleasing to see that this forum provides an opportunity for strategic deliberations amongst higher education stakeholders to align quality higher education qualifications with labor market needs. It has become clear that education attainment is not only vital to the economic well-being of individuals, but also for the nation, and it's a fact. While we believe that education should improve the quality of life of a person, but then that also should translate into becoming a good citizen, contributing to the nation development, etc., etc. We all know that access to and completion of education is a key determinant in the accumulation of human capital and economic growth. The purpose of higher education qualification is to develop new knowledge, identify skill gaps, and adjust workforce development demand to the economy, which includes demand for new skills. Ladies and gentlemen, we have seen the impact of COVID-19 pandemic on the education sector. No one ever thought that schools will be closed for this long, or even higher education institutions will be closing their door with nervousness that was created due to COVID-19. In a way, I wouldn't say COVID-19 is something that we were looking forward to, but anyway, it's there. We can't do much about it, but deal with it. But that has opened the eyes of many people who are in the education sector. It has actually forced the world to talk about transformation of higher education. And I think this is the right time to do so. It is no exception to the critical need for developing new capabilities and integrating into new normal as the higher education sector restructures to meet the demands of the employer and entrepreneurs. Ladies and gentlemen, it is crucial that we develop and enhance advanced technological capabilities to ensure that Fiji is future ready to deal with the challenges posed by pandemics, climate change, geopolitical tensions, or other human and natural disasters. We don't know what is in store for us. It can happen. But does that mean next time around, if something like this happens, should we close our doors again, or should we be ready now so that we can deal with the issues as it comes? We have to make the higher education sector fit for purpose. It must be relevant for entrepreneurs, for employers, and for the economic growth and nation development. It is not about what you want to offer in the market, but you need to meet the market demand. Education transformation should serve the needs of labor market and entrepreneurs, where knowledge is becoming an important economic resource for knowledge-based economies. There is a critical need for higher education institutions to develop programs within the framework of the next generation learning standard, which is becoming the norm around the world. The new graduates must develop high-order skills such as problem-solving and critical thinking abilities, and work skills such as planning skill, negotiation skill, communication skill, mediation skills. And that will maximize employability, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurship. Ladies and gentlemen, through this forum, FHEC intends to develop 2023 to 2027 strategic plan. The panel discussion on key strategic pillars of the proposed strategic plan, such as responsiveness, relevance, resilience, sustainability, and engagement, will redefine the work of higher education, which must align with the new trends. At the global level, this year, in September, the UN General Secretary will host a summit on transformation of education, which will be attended by our leaders. And I want to re-emphasize, generally at UN level, or you can say UN General Assembly, education never featured. At the time around, there is a big realization after COVID-19 that we have to make education fit for purpose. We've seen there is an acute shortage of skilled people around the globe. And even the discussions that I attended, it centered around the change in workforce that is required. And even if you have a conversation today with the private sector, they will let you know the kind of workforce they need. And it is for us to prepare ourselves towards that. You may argue that we need to transform education from ECE right up to secondary level. I totally agree with you. We are embarking in that direction. For your information, GPE is funding Ministry of Education to develop education sector plan. And that is where we're going to have a lot of consultation with all key stakeholders over several months to identify the challenges and to find the new way of the new changes that are required in the education sector. You may have seen some changes have been rolled out, and there are some work being done behind the scene. For example, ECE subsector is being reviewed from policy, curriculum to standards. And then level 1 to level 3, we are focusing on numeracy and literacy, civic and moral education, and we have reduced the number of subjects that were offered from year 1 to year 3, which was a bit crazy. I was quite surprised to learn from teachers who were teaching in level 1 to level 3 that at such a tender age, children were taught some very difficult concept. And that was leading to loss of interest in study. We have to make study more fun. We need to engage with our students. And I hear this loud and clear that yes, we need to change our primary to secondary school curriculum. We have engaged people who will be working with the various stakeholders to develop various curriculum. But I also would like to share with you that it is the intention of Ministry of Education to offer more subjects at secondary level, not the current number that we offer. And I'm sure most of you can reflect going through the education system. And those were the courses offered then, and it remains same now, although we're talking about innovation and creativity. So there will be major changes happening at primary and secondary level that will be guided by the education sector plan that comes out of the consultation with various stakeholders. It is in fact realized that unlike other sectors, the education sector has not seen the significant transformation in low and middle income countries. And I feel that this forum is very timely with all stakeholders in this room, where you can have a good discussion as to how the higher education sector needs to transform. As a sector, we must prepare ourselves for this disruptive transformation. And at the heart of this transformation will sit the ICT ecosystem. This means that in order to build resilience in the education sector, we need to provide students with the learning that they are most familiar with. There cannot be a mismatch between how we teach and how students want to learn. And while we are talking about transformation, we know that ICT-enabled learning is very, very important. And perhaps most important is the use of appropriate pedagogies for learning. However, there is a lot of skepticism about online learning. Online learning is not only about offering courses online, rather finding the right fit, how the physical and virtual modes can be blended to enhance student experience inside and outside classroom, combined with industry knowledge. Teaching through Zoom and placing materials on Moodle platform is not enough. Given the financial constraints and the rising cost of living, parents and students are worried whether the degrees will give them jobs and still offer a good return on investment. As such, you need to think beyond just the classroom instructions and develop programs that will assist students to find jobs or create entrepreneurial opportunities. Education institution must also think about financial sustainability and rethink and reframe how to best utilize the physical space by incorporating technology into it. With the transition to hybrid learning, institutions may also explore divesting from any of the assets that are deemed non-critical. To succeed in today's economic and educational environment, innovative thinking is required to maximize the utility of all physical assets. It involves asking difficult questions. For example, what might be the new HR structure in a technology-driven self-learning environment? Globally, higher education institutions face the challenges of producing leaders for the future. And I want to re-emphasize that we need to do a lot more work in this area. There is a leadership gap in existing graduates. This is not only observed in Fiji and the Pacific Island countries, but also in other countries around the world. There is an absence of critical thinkers and problem solvers, and a lack of strategic thinkers and entrepreneurship in our graduates. All are inhibiting the generation of new ideas and innovation. This will impact our productivity and our ability to achieve sustainable growth and development. The higher education institutes must explore ways of addressing the existing leadership gap and adequately develop leadership qualities in our young generation. Ladies and gentlemen, the industries today are fast evolving and their requirements of labor force is changing. And I'll share an example with you. We cannot train our mechanics on just Toyota and other vehicles when we know that we have more Prius on the road. Are we providing the right training? Again, I recall attending the launch of TVET Pacifica, and the private sector raised some very pertinent concerns that while the industry is evolving, but unfortunately the graduates coming out to join the industry, there is a huge mismatch. And these industries, they still have to get experts from Philippines and other countries to serve their needs. And that begs the question, why are we teaching such outdated courses? Ladies and gentlemen, we need to focus on new programs, and this can only happen if we have this collaborative engagement with the industry, and not just, as I mentioned earlier, or not just one time, but continuously try and understand their needs. And then only we'll be able to produce graduates who can fit into that job market. We would like to see that Higher Education Commission ensures that the teacher training programs are accredited or benchmarked to some global accreditation institution. As we expect doctors, lawyers, engineers, IT professional programs to be accredited, I do not see why teacher training programs should be any different. I urge the Higher Education Commission to look seriously into this. Local registration is clearly not enough. If we want our children to receive quality education, this is imperative. Ladies and gentlemen, following the 2 waves of COVID-19, government's revenue has been greatly affected. For a small nation, such setbacks have impacts of much larger magnitude. While our borders have opened and we are seeing our tourism industry thrive again, the fact remains that in these uncertain times, we simply cannot rely on the tourism industry alone to keep our economy going. The government is relying on the private sector, the business sector, to build and drive the country's economy. Due to downturn of the economy with job losses, the nation needs to quickly create more opportunities for employment, as well as appropriate skill set and professionals. This is where higher education institutes and Fiji Higher Education Commission can play an important role. Post-pandemic, the TVET sector has become critical for our country to create jobs and to grow the economy. Training must be focused in areas of needs, as I said earlier on, and not just what we would like to do. And I want to share this with you again. It's not just the TVET sector at Higher Education Institute. At the ministry level, we've been looking at the vocational courses that are offered in secondary school. And I must express my disappointment that over the years, we had not seriously looked at some of the courses that has been delivered in secondary school. There was a mismatch again in terms of what the demand is, but we find it easy just to offer courses like we all know sewing is one of them, hospitality is another one. But there is a demand in the market for block layers, for tile layers. These are short courses which even our secondary vocational schools can offer. So we are relooking at these courses and we're trying to see what changes we can bring about so that we can add value to us, just to add value to the market, as well as to create this employment for those who are unemployed. So we look forward to Higher Education Commission's leadership in developing the subsector of TVET. We also need to carry out workforce needs analysis to establish with evidence the areas of skill shortages and areas of oversupply. I mean, oversupply, it's a bit polite, but when we talk about oversupply, it simply means unemployment. And we need to fix that. Unless this is done, government's expenditure on tertiary education will not be targeted, and we will not get the returns we want from our investment. We all must understand that education in Fiji is a $1 billion industry, and we cannot continue to fund higher education institutes if we are not getting the return. Just like any other investor, if we invest, we must get the rate of return. I therefore urge you to carry out a workforce needs analysis. This will also help TSLS in determining the priority areas for funding. I hope that you will hold frank discussions with the industries, higher education institutions, and external parties who are part of this forum, so you can come up with concrete plans for a way forward for higher education in Fiji. I would be keen to see the outcomes of this forum. Before concluding my remarks, I want to make some additional remarks on matters that are equally important to the higher education institutes. One issue that comes up frequently in the media is the very sensitive topic of bullying and sexual harassment in the universities. We cannot take such matters lightly. Such matters should be fully investigated, and our students as well as staff members must be assured of protection from such incidences. I understand that higher education institutes have policy on bullying and sexual harassment, but the question is whether it's working or whether it's applied independently. Since the major tertiary institutions are part of this forum, I would request if Fiji Higher Education Commission can find some time to have discussions on how this could be handled in most professional and transparent way. And perhaps our experts from Australia can shed some light how this is handled in Australia and whether our policies and its implementations can be strengthened to protect our students and staff members. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, I thank Fiji Higher Education Commission and the board members for this timely forum. And I wish you well in your deliberation. And I know that you're going to have a fruitful discussion, finding the pathway for transforming the higher education sector. I now have great pleasure to officially open this forum. Thank you very much, Yanaka Vakalevu, and Dhanyavad.